16-year-old Aiden Fucci, who is charged with first-degree murder for killing 13-year-old Tristan Bailey back on May 9, 2021.
Teen killers have caused irreversible pain, proving that age is no defense against horrific crimes. One such case is Aiden Fucci. His shocking actions and haunting courtroom moments will leave you speechless. Get ready for chilling stories that will both horrify and captivate you.
As well as his 13-year-old sister, 18-year-old brother, and his brother's 19-year-old pregnant girlfriend.
His first trial on those charges ended in a mistrial. Used an assault rifle during the shooting inside the home located on Adams Street here in Indianapolis. Pastor Sullivan told 13 News he's convinced that music can influence young people.
On January 24, 2021, a tragic event unfolded in Indianapolis, Indiana. On this day, a 17-year-old named Raymond Ronald Lee Child III committed a horrific crime, murdering his own family members in cold blood. The events leading up to the brutal act were set in motion when Childs received a phone call from his father, Raymond Childs Jr., asking him to come home from his girlfriend's house.
6 people, including a pregnant woman and her unborn child, found dead in this home on Adams Street.
When Raymond Childs arrived at the family home, his emotions quickly escalated. Angered by his father's request, he decided to act out his revenge in the most devastating manner possible. With a gun in hand, Raymond embarked on a mission of destruction, systematically eliminating every member of his family. Kezzie Childs, Raymond's 42-year-old mother, was his first victim. Raymond then turned his attention to his father, Raymond Childs Jr., and pulled the trigger, ending his life as well. Next, Raymond turned his attention to his 13-year-old sister, Rita. The violence continued as Raymond turned his gun on his 18-year-old brother, Elijah, and his 19-year-old pregnant girlfriend, Kiara Hawkins. In the midst of this carnage, Raymond's 15-year-old brother managed to escape and sought refuge at a neighbor's house. Alerting the local authorities, the survivor provided crucial information that would lead to Raymond's arrest. According to the testimony of the brother, Raymond shot both their parents in their home on Adams Street. The devastated father, in his last moments, uttered the words, "I'm sorry, Raymond, I love you." Based on the evidence provided by the brother, Raymond Childs III was arrested and charged with 6 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder. He was charged as an adult under Indiana law, which meant that he faced the possibility of a maximum sentence of life without parole. In July 2024, Raymond Childs III finally went on trial for his crimes. However, the trial ended in a mistrial when a witness addressed Raymond from the stand, asking why he had committed the murders. This unexpected turn of events caused a mistrial, leaving Raymond's fate hanging in the balance. On October 24, 2024, the court proceedings surrounding Raymond's retrial came to a conclusion. After a 5-day trial, Raymond was found guilty of murder, attempted murder, and a misdemeanor charge of carrying a handgun without a license. Prosecutor Ryan Mears delivered a powerful statement following the verdict, expressing his utmost satisfaction. Mears stated that what happened on Adams Street in January 2021 was unfathomable, and he believed that the jury's verdict brought justice to the victims and the survivor of a horrific crime. Raymond's sentencing is scheduled for January 7, 2025. Next, we present to you the case of James Fairweather, a notorious murderer from the UK who committed a series of random acts of violence.
It was lying on the grass, like that. It was like that, just fast asleep, where he was drunk. Then he goes, he's the one.
James Fairweather attended Colchester Academy in England, where he encountered numerous struggles due to his physical appearance and struggle with academics. Diagnosed with dyslexia, James faced constant bullying, which only intensified his suffering. The loss of his beloved grandmother in 2012 further impacted his well-being, leading to a deep sense of grief and isolation. However, none of those circumstances provided an excuse for what James Fairweather would go on to do. On March 29, 2014, the unimaginable happened. James Fairweather attacked the defenseless James Atfield, a 33-year-old father of 5 who had been seriously injured in a car accident years before. The tragic incident unfolded at Castle Park, where James Atfield was lying on the grass. James Fairweather, driven by unimaginable rage, viciously stabbed James Atfield multiple times, leaving him bleeding to death. As the details of the case unfolded, it was revealed that James Atfield had been stabbed over 100 times. 3 months after the brutal murder of James Atfield, Nahid Al-Mania, a 31-year-old Saudi student at the University of Essex, fell victim to James Fairweather's violent rampage. Nahid's body was found on Salary Brook Trail, near her home, with multiple stab wounds.
So today, Chief Superintendent Carl O'Malley gave interview after interview after interview, repeated appeals for public help.
As the police investigated, they questioned over 50 individuals with a history of knife crime in the area. James Fairweather remained under the radar, By January 2015, nearly 1,000 people had been spoken to regarding the murders of James Atfield and Nahid Al-Mania. These murders, which took place in a public park in broad daylight, shocked the nation. The head of the Major Crimes Unit for the Essex Police described the killings as brazenly executed. Despite the lack of evidence, the police even went as far as investigating whether Nahid's murder was a hate crime due to her Saudi background. In May 2015, a breakthrough came when a dog walker found James Fairweather loitering in a park and called the police. When the police arrived, they discovered James with rubber gloves and a knife in his possession. He was arrested on the spot. In January 2015, James Fairweather found himself the subject of a psychiatric evaluation. During this session, he disclosed that he had harbored antisocial and violent thoughts for quite some time. This revelation sparked a further investigation into James's life, and a search of his personal belongings led authorities to uncover a disturbing truth. James had a deep fascination with serial killers, with a particular interest in the Yorkshire Ripper. As the investigation continued, there was mounting evidence suggesting that James was indeed connected to the two murders in the park. Despite his initial denial of any involvement, the evidence against him grew stronger, leading to his arrest and being charged with 2 counts of murder and possession of an illegal weapon. James maintained his innocence throughout the legal proceedings, but the evidence against him was overwhelming. However, as the trial unfolded, James made a shocking decision. He ultimately pleaded guilty to 2 charges of manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility. James admitted that he had committed the crimes, but claimed that he had psychosis at the time of the incident. Despite his admission, a court psychiatrist did not find sufficient evidence to support his claim of psychosis. On April 22, 2016, James was found guilty by a unanimous verdict. He was sentenced to life in prison with parole eligibility in 27 years. James attempted to appeal his sentence on the grounds of his young age, arguing that he was not fully aware of his actions. However, his appeal was rejected when the judge declared that James had been aware of what was happening at the time of the murders. Next, we turn to the disturbing case of Aiden Fucci. We'll uncover the chilling details of his crime and witness the emotional breakdown of a teenager spiraling into darkness.
So Tristan Bailey, Aiden Fucci, they went to school together at Patriot Oaks Academy. Both lived in an upper middle class neighborhood, pretty much had zero crime. May 9th, 2021, Bailey goes missing.
Tristan Bailey was born in January 2008. She was the youngest of 5 children and spent her first years growing up in sunny Singapore. Everyone who knew Tristan described her as an incredible friend with boundless energy. The Bailey family eventually returned to the United States and settled in St. Johns County, Florida. In May 2021, Tristan was a 7th grader at Patriot Oaks Academy, living a typical teenage girl's life. She was happy, popular, and a cheerleader. However, things changed on May 9th, 2021, when Tristan's mother went to her bedroom to wake her up and discovered she was nowhere to be found.
49 of the stab wounds were located on her hands, arms, legs.
Tragically, hours later, a person walking through a wooded area on Saddlestone Drive near Jacksonville stumbled upon a retention bond and couldn't help but notice what appeared to be a mannequin. Upon closer inspection, they realized it wasn't a mannequin, but the body of a young girl they'd all come to know and love. It was Tristan. The medical examiner's report revealed a shocking discovery. Tristan had been stabbed multiple times, with a staggering total of nearly 120 wounds. Shockingly, many of those wounds were found to be defensive, indicating that she had fought for her life. As crime scene investigators meticulously combed the area, they stumbled upon crucial evidence. A buck knife missing a tip was discovered in the pond near Tristan's body. However, the missing tip was found in an even more disturbing location, lodged in Tristan's head. Multiple witnesses came forward, stating that they had seen 14-year-old Aiden Fucci and Tristan together before she was reported missing. These statements, coupled with Aiden's ever-changing stories when questioned by police, added fuel to the fire. One of the stories Aiden told investigators involved an altercation between the two, where he claimed that Tristan had touched his privates, prompting him to push her away physically. According to Aiden, Tristan fell to the ground and hit her head. After being questioned by the police while sitting in a patrol car, Aiden took pictures and videos and posted them on Snapchat. In one post, Aiden asked, "Hey guys, has anybody seen Tristan lately?" At midnight on May 10th, 2021, the police conducted a search of Aiden's home in search of evidence connecting him to Tristan's murder. Inside the room belonging to Aiden, investigators discovered a sheath matching the knife found near Tristan's body. Additionally, they found clothing stained with blood. 3 hours later, Aiden was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. However, the charges were later upgraded to first-degree murder after further investigation and witness statements. Aiden was held without bond as the police delved deeper into his case. When the police spoke to Aiden's friends, they revealed that Aiden had admitted to them that he was going to kill someone by taking them into the woods and stabbing them. Sophie Bauman, Aiden's ex, shared a shocking revelation as well. She stated that one time when Aiden was playing around with her, he pretended to stab her and later told her that he heard voices in his head. Aiden's alleged actions, combined with the evidence presented against him, portrayed him as a troubled and dangerous young man. In a shocking turn of events, Aiden's mother, Crystal Smith, was arrested and charged with tampering with evidence. The accusation stated that Crystal had washed blood off her son's jeans, potentially hindering the investigation. However, despite the initial charges, she was later released. As jury selection was set to take place in February 2023, Aiden pleaded guilty to first-degree murder on February 6th. In a letter written after the incident, Aiden expressed remorse for the pain he had caused Tristan's family. Aiden's remorse did not spare him the consequences of his actions. On March 24, 2023, he was given a maximum sentence of life in prison, with a minimum parole eligibility of 25 years.
This case is probably the most difficult and shocking case that this county and St. Johns County has.
Judge R. Lee Smith described the case as difficult and shocking, emphasizing that Tristan was murdered for no reason other than Aiden's internal desire to feel the thrill of taking another person's life. To symbolize the pain and suffering endured by Tristan's family, one of Tristan's sisters dropped 144 stone hearts into a glass jar. Each heart represented the number of times Tristan had been stabbed. As each loved one of Tristan read their statements, the room was filled with a mix of emotions. The pain, anger, and sadness were palpable in the air. With each passing sentence, the jar of hearts stood in front of them, symbolizing the shattered remains of their hearts. Aiden Fucci's horrifying actions and lack of remorse shocked the nation. But the next case is equally unsettling. Zaire Brooks, a young man whose violent choices left devastating consequences for those around him.
Edmund Butler was only 17. His family had just had a celebration sending him off to prom. But last July, Butler was found dead in his car here at South Leibold and Gilroy Streets in southwest Detroit.
Officers of the Detroit Police Department were called to a shooting scene on July 26, 2022, outside of River Road in the southwest part of the city. Upon arrival, they discovered the body of a 17-year-old young man named Edmund Butler, who had been shot in the back of his head. The medical examiner later determined the cause of death to be a gunshot wound, and the manner was ruled a homicide.
Detroit police interrogation video is of 17-year-old Zaire Brooks. Brooks was Butler's lifelong best friend.
As the investigation unfolded, detectives of the Detroit Police Department swiftly zeroed in on Edmund Butler's best friend, Zaire Brooks. After extensive interrogation, Zaire eventually admitted to being the one who shot and killed Edmund. He revealed that he had planned to meet Edmund with the intention of buying $200 worth of marijuana, but all along, he had sinister intentions. According to Zaire, his intention was to rob his friend, Edmund. However, things took a tragic turn when he claims he was forced to shoot Edmund, fearing that he could identify Zaire as the robber. On August 31, 2022, Zaire was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, felony murder, carrying a concealed weapon, and other felony charges related to firearms. Due to the severity of his actions, Zaire was charged as an adult even though he was 17 years old. Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy issued a statement emphasizing that the prosecutor's office takes any decision to waive juveniles as adults extremely seriously. She called the case truly tragic, affecting all parties involved. In June 2023, Zaire Brooks and the prosecution finally reached a plea agreement. The prosecution dismissed several felony charges against Zaire, making room for a more focused sentence. Wayne County Circuit Judge Sharice Anderson ultimately sentenced Zaire to 23 to 40 years in prison for second-degree murder and 2 years for a weapons felony firearm charge. Next, we turn to the shocking case of teen killer Ethan Couch, whose defense argued he was too wealthy to face the consequences of his crimes. His insane sentence left the courtroom stunned and sparked intense debate.
Couch was 16, crashing into a group of people who were helping 24-year-old Brianna Mitchell, who had broken down on the side of the road. Mitchell, Holly Boyles, her daughter Shelby Boyles, and youth pastor Brian Jennings.
Ethan Couch was born into an upper-middle-class family in Burleson, Texas. When he was 13 years old, he began attending Anderson Private School, a prestigious institution known for its high standards and academic excellence. However, Ethan's journey at Anderson Private School was short-lived. After the principal raised concerns about Ethan's behavior, his father, Fred, and his mother, Tanya, decided to pull him out of school. Instead of attending a traditional school, Ethan was enrolled in a co-op in Watauga. Things seemed to be looking up for Ethan at the age of 15. He had enrolled at community college and was seemingly on a path to success. However, fate had other plans in store for him. One day, Ethan found himself in a parked pickup truck with a naked, unconscious 14-year-old girl. The authorities were called to the scene, and Ethan was charged with minor consumption and possession of alcohol. Ethan decided to plead guilty. He was sentenced to probation, an alcohol awareness course, and community service. It seemed like this was an opportunity for Ethan to turn his life around. Unfortunately, Ethan's troubles with the law were far from over. Despite his efforts to stay out of trouble, he ended up making headlines for all the wrong reasons. On the night of June 15, 2013, Ethan Couch, accompanied by a group of friends, embarked on an ill-fated journey that would change their lives forever. Armed with 2 cases of beer he had stolen from Walmart, Ethan decided to drive his father's 2012 red Ford pickup truck with 7 passengers inside. As Ethan recklessly sped down the road, oblivious to the speed limit and warning signs, tragedy unfolded. 24-year-old Brianna Mitchell's SUV had stalled, and she pulled over to seek assistance. Brianna had no idea fate would bring her face-to-face with Ethan and his irresponsible actions. Holly Boyles and her daughter Shelby, who were living nearby, happened to be passing by. Holly, a 52-year-old woman, and her 21-year-old daughter Shelby, who was home visiting from university, decided to lend a helping hand to Brianna. In the meantime, Brian Jennings, a youth minister and father of 3, had also stopped to assist Brianna. As Ethan's truck barreled down the road, it swerved into Brianna's vehicle and crashed into Brian's parked car. The collision caused Brian's car to strike an oncoming vehicle, and in an instant, the scene turned into a chaotic disaster. Ethan's truck flipped over, ramming into a tree. Tragically, Brianna Mitchell, Holly and Shelby Boyles, and Brian Jennings all lost their lives in the incident. Sergio Molina, a passenger in Ethan Couch's vehicle, survived the horrific crash, but was left paralyzed from the neck down. The other passengers in Ethan's vehicle, as well as Ethan himself, were taken to the hospital, but miraculously they suffered no serious injuries. However, 3 hours after the incident, it was discovered that Ethan's blood alcohol level was a staggering 0.24%, 3 times over the legal limit. As if that weren't enough, he also tested positive for marijuana and diazepam. After the medical staff cleared Ethan at the hospital, he was arrested and charged with 4 counts of intoxication manslaughter and 2 counts of intoxication assault. He pleaded not guilty. As the story unfolded, the media soon discovered that Ethan's parents, Fred and Tanya, had been in trouble with the law. Fred had previously been charged with evading arrest, theft by check, and assault on Tanya. To add insult to injury, he was also convicted of misdemeanor assault in 2000. While these charges were shocking, Tanya's past truly raised eyebrows. In 2013, the same year as the fatal accident involving her son, Tanya was sentenced to a $500 fine and community service for reckless driving. It was a disturbing revelation that hinted at a disregard for the law and the consequences of their actions. It was obvious from the beginning that the Couch family was used to some sort of privilege. This mindset became even more apparent when G. Dick Miller, a defense-hired psych, testified during Ethan's trial. Miller claimed that Ethan suffered from affluenza and couldn't link his actions with consequences because his mother and father taught him that money, privilege, and power were connected. The affluenza defense, a term coined by the Couch family's legal team, gained international attention for its outrageous claims. The defense argued that Ethan's privileged upbringing had prevented him from understanding the consequences of his actions. They argued that Ethan's wealth had shielded him from reality and distorted his moral compass.
Did not have the authority to do so. The High Court disagreed. You'll remember Couch unsuccessfully used that privileged upbringing affluenza defense and received 10 years probation.
However, many people found the affluenza defense ludicrous and offensive. Critics argued that it perpetuated the idea that the wealthy are exempt from responsibility and blame. It sparked debates about the role of privilege in society and the responsibility of parents in raising their children. As Ethan Couch faced the consequences of his actions, his family's reactions were mixed. Tanya Couch expressed remorse for her son's actions, but defended the use of the affluenza defense. On the other hand, Fred Couch remained unrepentant and blamed the media for his son's fate. The reactions from the Couch family further fueled public outrage and discussions about the severity of Ethan's sentence. Many believed that his punishment did not fit the crime, while others argued that it was necessary to hold him accountable. Ethan was sentenced to attend an upscale rehab center that costs approximately $500,000 a year. In addition to his rehab requirement, Ethan was ordered on probation for 10 years and was given additional restrictions. He was required to wear an ankle monitor, submit to drug testing, and abide by a 9 p.m. curfew. The judge also ordered Ethan to install a video interlocking ignition device on his car. Eric Boyles, Holly's husband and Shelby's father, told the media in 2014 that he felt Ethan's sentence was too lenient. He argued that the outcome might have been different if Ethan hadn't had the money to afford a top-notch defense. This statement sparked controversy and debate, with several people questioning the severity of the punishment. In the midst of all the controversy, 6 civil lawsuits were filed by the victims' and survivors' families against Ethan and his family. These lawsuits sought justice and compensation for the pain and suffering caused. However, all the suits were eventually settled out of court, allowing the parties involved to move on from this chapter. Despite going to rehab and being on probation, Ethan's actions continued to defy the legal system. In December 2015, police were alerted to a tweet that alleged Ethan was playing beer pong at a party and drinking alcohol. This blatant violation of his probation sparked an investigation, issuing a warrant for his arrest. However, Ethan managed to elude authorities, with his probation officer failing to make contact with his mother, Tanya. U.S. Marshals and the FBI joined the effort as the search for Ethan intensified. By the end of December, Ethan and Tanya were finally located in Mexico and extradited to the U.S. Ethan was taken into custody and faced the consequences of his actions. On April 13, 2016, Ethan was finally sentenced by a district judge named Wayne Salvant. Ethan received 4 consecutive terms of 180 days, extending his probation to longer. Just when it seemed Ethan had learned his lesson, he once again found himself in hot water. In January 2020, Ethan was accused of violating his probation when he tested positive for THC. To the surprise of many, Ethan was released just 1 day after it was determined that the positive result could have come from either illegal marijuana or CBD oil. The leniency shown towards Ethan again sparked outrage, with critics questioning the system's ability to handle repeat offenders. Ethan Couch's reckless actions and the controversial affluenza defense left many outraged. But the next case takes us to an even more chilling moment in history.
Custody until she's 25, then go to state prison. That everyone expected. What they did not expect was the judge's permission to tape the audio portion of the proceeding.
Brenda Spencer was born and raised in Chula Vista, California, to parents Dorothy and Wallace Spencer. However, things turned tragic after Dorothy discovered that Wallace was cheating on her with several women. These affairs led to a breakdown of their marriage, and the couple eventually divorced. After the divorce, Brenda moved with her father, Wallace, into a filthy apartment. Living conditions were far from ideal, as they shared a mattress on the living room floor. The home was littered with empty bottles from Wallace's alcohol abuse. It was during this period that Brenda's behavior began to deteriorate. People around her would later claim that she harbored a deep hatred for policemen, referring to them as pigs and cheering whenever she saw reports of officers involved in shootings. Brenda's erratic behavior scared many people, and she was often described as crazy. Around this time, Brenda started to get into trouble with the law. Her probation officer believed it was necessary for her to undergo a psych evaluation. This evaluation concluded that Brenda should be admitted to a mental hospital to seek professional help for her mental health. However, her father, Wallace Spencer, vehemently denied this decision and decided to take matters into his own hands. Instead of seeking proper mental health treatment for his daughter, Wallace Spencer purchased Brenda a Ruger 1022 semi-automatic .22 caliber rifle with a telescoping light and 500 pounds of ammunition. Little did he know that this decision would set off a tragic chain of events. On January 29, 1979, Brenda Spencer opened fire from the window of her house, aiming her rifle towards Grover Cleveland Elementary School.
After neighbors, nearby residents, and all the school children were safely evacuated, police mapped out their strategy. Prepared for either lengthy negotiations or for an assault.
The innocent children and staff inside were unsuspecting targets for Brenda's rage. In a matter of minutes, she shot and killed 53-year-old principal Burton Ragg and injured 8 other children. She also managed to wound 56-year-old Mike Sucher, the school custodian, fatally. Officer Robert Robb arrived at the scene in an attempt to end the massacre. However, as he approached Brenda's house, she opened fire, striking him in the neck. Luckily, the police at the scene acted quickly and moved a garbage truck in Brenda's line of fire, stopping her from shooting any further. Brenda then barricaded herself inside her home and spoke to a reporter from the Evening Tribune on the phone. She revealed her motive for the shooting, saying, "I don't like Mondays."
After hours of waiting, the negotiations did pay off. SWAT officers and police could congratulate themselves on the fact that no more blood was spilled after the initial shootings.
After several hours of negotiation, negotiators surrounded Brenda after being promised a Burger King. Despite her age, Brenda was charged as an adult and pleaded guilty to 2 counts of murder and assault with a deadly weapon. In April 1980, just 1 day after she turned 18, she was sentenced to concurrent terms of 25 years to life.
There being no legal cause, my sentence should not now be imposed.
That is correct.
As to counts 1 and 2, the sentence is 25 years to life.
In exchange, 9 counts of attempted murder were dismissed. Brenda's actions shocked the nation and earned her the title Schoolgirl Sniper. With her young age and lack of remorse, the public reaction was a mix of shock and horror. This crime was particularly chilling as she targeted elementary school students. The thought of a child being gunned down by a teenager left many in disbelief. The lead singer of the Boomtown Rats, an Irish new wave band, was particularly struck by what happened. Bob Geldof was deeply affected by Brenda's story. He was particularly struck that Brenda had cited her dislike of Mondays for her heinous crime. This quote inspired Bob to write a song called I Don't Like Mondays, released in July 1979. Despite the severity of the charges, Brenda became eligible for parole in 1993 for the first time. However, her request was denied. At her parole hearing in 2001, Brenda alleged that her father had harmed her, but her father, Wallace, adamantly denied these claims, stating they were untrue. The board ultimately denied her parole. Brenda, currently serving her sentence at the California Institution for Women, was dealt a devastating blow at her latest parole hearing in August 2022. In spite of her efforts to prove her rehabilitation, she was still deemed unsuitable for release. Her next parole hearing is in 2025. Brenda Spencer's unthinkable act of violence shocked a nation and left an enduring legacy of pain. But the next case takes us to a very different kind of crime. Max Wade, a teenager whose bold and audacious crimes, including theft and attempted murder, revealed a dangerous mix of recklessness and ambition.
Wade's legs will be chained up during his upcoming trial. His attorney was concerned about the image that would have on the jury, so curtains have been put up in front of his seat. This area here.
Max Wade first gained attention when he made headlines for stealing a Lamborghini that belonged to none other than celebrity chef Guy Fieri. This audacious act earned him 15 minutes of fame and landed him in hot water with the law. However, Max's legal troubles did not end there. In 2013, he was found guilty of 6 charges, including attempted murder. Despite being just a teenager at the time of the crimes, he was tried as an adult. In April 2012, Max committed a drive-by shooting in Mill Valley. His target was 19-year-old Landon Wallstrom, who was in a car with 18-year-old Eva Dedier. Max was initially charged with attempted murder in Eva's case, but the charge was dropped. Max's actions were deemed so severe that he was ultimately sentenced to life in prison, plus 21 years and 4 months. Judge Kelly Simmons, who delivered the harsh verdict, stated that Max planned the attack perfectly, and that's kind of scary. However, the sentence was met with controversy as Max's attorney argued that it violated the 8th Amendment, which protects individuals from cruel and unusual punishment. Max's defense attorney argued that considering his immaturity and troubled childhood, a life sentence would be disproportionate and unfair. They argued that Max's young age and troubled upbringing should have been taken into account by the judge, considering Max's lack of criminal experience and background. The prosecution sought to counter these claims by highlighting Max's dangerous nature and intentions. They argued that Max had planned to carry out a violent burglary at a high-end San Francisco jewelry store, valued at over $6 million. This planned heist involved the use of a bomb, fake police uniforms, and a chopper. Despite reviewing the evidence, Judge Simmons denied the prosecution's request to introduce this evidence, stating that the plans were unrelated to Max's current case. This decision caused an uproar among some who believed Max's intentions should have been considered in sentencing. While some argued that he deserves a life sentence for his crimes, others believe that his age and troubled background should have been taken into account. One of the detectives who worked on the case and had helped identify Max as a suspect expressed his satisfaction with the guilty verdict. He was quoted as saying, "I wouldn't want my mother or girlfriend to be on the same streets as Max Wade." In a shocking turn of events, in 2021, Max's sentence was significantly reduced by 10 years, which increased his parole eligibility by 7 years. During Max's parole hearing, he shocked everyone with his remarkable transformation. He claimed that he had changed significantly while in prison, stating that the death of a close friend had had a profound impact on him. Max elaborated on how this experience had opened his eyes and made him realize the error of his ways. Max went on to tell the parole board that he had earned his GED and was now studying computer science. He expressed a desire to work in cybersecurity. The state parole board, impressed by Max's good behavior and assessed him as a low to moderate risk, decided to grant him parole. This decision was met with objections from the Marin District Attorney's Office, which argued that Max was merely a wolf in sheep's clothing. Despite their concerns, the parole board stood by their decision, citing Max's impressive progress and willingness to change. The parole decision, made on July 20th, will be reviewed by the board's legal division and California Governor Gavin Newsom. This process can take upwards of 3 months as both parties carefully examine the details of the case and weigh the potential consequences. It is crucial to note that the governor, who holds the ultimate authority in such cases, makes the final determination of Max's parolees. From Max Wade's high-speed chase with the law, we move on to a far darker and more disturbing story, the case of Robert and Michael Beaver. These teenage brothers took sibling rivalry to a horrifying level, committing unthinkable acts against their own family.
Broken Arrow, Oklahoma has 1, maybe 2 murders a year, but tonight this community is reeling from 5, the worst crime anyone here can remember.
In 2015, the quiet town of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma was rocked by a shocking crime involving the Beaver family. Daniel and April Beaver were a seemingly ordinary couple, raising their 5 children in a modest home. But beneath this facade, a darker truth lurked. The Beavers were a close-knit unit, with Robert, Michael, Crystal, Daniel, Christopher, Victoria, and Autumn making up their brood. Those who knew the family described them as quiet and withdrawn, preferring to keep to themselves. The children, homeschooled by their parents, were rarely seen interacting with other children in the neighborhood. Despite their seemingly innocent exterior, rumors about the Beaver brothers, Robert and Michael, began to circulate. There was something unsettling about them, but no one could put their finger on it.
Police don't yet have a motive, one calling this the worst single criminal event in this town's history.
On July 21, 2015, Robert and Michael Beaver collected body armor and knives, hatching a plan to carry out a horrific act of violence. These 2 brothers were plotting to murder their family the very next day. Around 11:30 p.m., Robert and Michael enacted their deadly plan, starting with a horrifying act of violence. They slit their 13-year-old sister Crystal's throat, leaving her fighting for her life. Crystal fought against her brothers, escaping the bedroom and running for the front door. But her siblings were not about to let her escape. They dragged her back inside the house and unleashed an even more brutal assault on her. The extent of Crystal's injuries were horrifying, with her internal organs almost spilling out. Incredibly, she survived this brutal assault, but the rest of the family was not so lucky. Robert and Michael went on a rampage, brutally murdering their parents and siblings. Robert, in a fit of rage, fatally stabbed his mother, April, a staggering 48 times. While Christopher and Victoria Beaver were hiding in the bathroom during the assault, using a clever ruse, Michael pretended to be scared and a victim, knocking on the door and pleading for help. Christopher decided to open the door and allow Michael inside, thinking it was a matter of safety. Instead of seeking safety, Michael turned on his unsuspecting siblings, fatally stabbing each of them over 20 times. With his bloodlust seemingly sated, Michael turned to his father's home office, where his younger brother Daniel was hiding. Once again, he employed the same ruse, pretending to be a victim chased by Robert. Daniel opened the door, allowing Michael to enter. As Michael stepped into his father's office, he turned towards Robert, their other brother, and uttered chilling words. "He's all yours." In a moment of pure madness, Robert turned his knife on his younger brother Daniel and stabbed him in the stomach, chest, head, and back. Daniel Beaver woke up and found himself face to face with his son, Robert. In a matter of seconds, he lunged at his father's throat and stabbed his father repeatedly, 28 times, leaving him lifeless. After committing these heinous crimes, Robert and his brother Michael fled the scene, fleeing out the back door and into the woods that surrounded the house. They knew that the authorities would soon be on their trail, and they had no intentions of getting caught. Daniel Beaver, as he died, called 911. As police officers walked towards the front door, they noticed a pool of blood on the porch. With their hearts pounding, they knocked repeatedly on the door, calling out for any survivors. After an eternity, the officers heard a faint voice calling for help. Breaking down the door, they entered to find 13-year-old Crystal lying in a puddle of her blood. She was rushed to the nearest hospital, where doctors worked frantically to save her life. When Crystal was stable, she identified her brothers as the assailants. In addition to Crystal, only 2-year-old Autumn managed to escape the relentless violence, miraculously escaping with her life. But the rest of the family was gone, their lives ripped away in the most horrific way imaginable. Robert and Michael were arrested at 12:18 a.m. Officers apprehended the brothers using a canine unit after they were discovered hiding in a bush. They had each been charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of assault and battery with intent to kill. Michael, at 16, was tried as an adult, a decision that sparked controversy among legal professionals. His attorney argued that charging him as an adult was unconstitutional, stating that if convicted, he would be doomed to die in prison. Such an outcome, the attorney claimed, was effectively the same as a death sentence. The attorney contended that there was abuse in the Beaver household. However, no concrete evidence was provided to show that there was abuse within the Beaver household. Initially, Robert and Michael pleaded not guilty, maintaining their innocence in the face of overwhelming odds. While incarcerated, Robert dared to take his own life. However, fate intervened when a guard stumbled upon him in the nick of time. Robert pleaded guilty to all charges and was given 5 life sentences without parole, as well as an additional life term. Michael's trial began in April 2018. After 1 month of deliberation, the jury found him guilty and sentenced him to 5 life sentences with parole. Robert, who should have been safely locked away behind bars, attempted to attack 2 prison officers in the day room in 2019. This incident resulted in him receiving 3 more life terms, bringing his total amount of life sentences to 9. Robert and Michael are serving their sentences at the Joseph Harp Correctional Center and the Lexington Correctional Center, respectively, in Lexington, Oklahoma. After the chilling case of Robert and Michael Beaver, where sibling violence shattered an entire family, we now turn to the story of Kiram Currington.
Her name is Lelia King, and she was 30 years old. Police tell us she was caught in the crossfire of 2 groups shooting at each other.
In July 2022, police in Columbus, Ohio initiated a large-scale search for 16-year-old Kiram Currington. This search began after police were summoned to a shooting incident on July 16th. Upon their arrival, they discovered the body of Lelia King, a 30-year-old mother who had been tragically shot. Lelia had found herself trapped in the middle of a shootout between 2 groups in a convenience store parking lot. Unfortunately, she succumbed to her injuries at Mount Carmel East Hospital less than 3 hours later.
And police just sent us these photos of 3 people they think may have played a role in this homicide.
After conducting a thorough investigation, detectives obtained surveillance footage that led them to identify Kiram Currington as a person of interest in the case. After reviewing the footage, they realized that Kiram was directly involved in the tragic incident that resulted in Lelia's death. 1 month after the tragic incident involving Lelia King, the prime suspect in her shooting death was finally apprehended. Kiram Currington was arrested and faced charges for his involvement in the heinous crime. The charges brought against him included reckless homicide, among other offenses. However, Kiram maintained his innocence and pleaded not guilty to all charges. As time passed, the case continued to unfold, and in December of 2023, a shocking turn took place. Kiram, now charged as an adult, pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter in relation to Lelia's death. The Franklin County Court of Common Pleas judge presiding over the case handed down a sentence of 7 to 9 years for Kiram's actions. This punishment was met with mixed reactions from the general public, with some expressing satisfaction, while others called for harsher penalties. From Kiram Currington's tragic outburst of violence, we now move on to the unsettling case of Kiona Mouton. Mouton's story, much like Currington's, highlights the unpredictable and dangerous paths some young people take.
Some breaking news now, an update to a story we brought you right at 4 o'clock. The young woman who lured a Lamar High School student to his death in a gang-related hit has just been sentenced.
Kiona Samiriel Mouton, a 16-year-old student at Lamar High School, was the center of a heinous crime in 2018. Known for her charm and charisma, Kiona had caught the attention of 18-year-old DeLindsay Mack, who had a crush on her. On November 3, 2018, Kiona lured DeLindsay to an abandoned lot, promising him a surprise. Little did he know that this surprise would be a meeting with his fate. Kendrick Johnson, a gang member with a chilling reputation, was waiting in the shadows, ready to strike. In a tragic turn of events, Kendrick Johnson opened fire on DeLindsay, ultimately leading to his death. Davian Thomas, the getaway driver, was present during the crime, but the identity of the second shooter remained a mystery. The Houston Police Department and the prosecution are urging the public to provide any information regarding his identity. The consequences of Kiona's actions were far-reaching, leaving a lasting impact on everyone involved. Kiona, now facing criminal charges, found herself facing the prospect of a life in prison. Her actions not only cost the life of an innocent young man, but also shattered the lives of his family and loved ones. Kendrick Johnson was sentenced to life without parole for his involvement in the heinous crime. Davian Thomas, the getaway driver in the DeLindsay murder case, received an equally harsh sentence. He was sentenced to 50 years in prison. According to court records, DeLindsay's murder was the result of an ongoing war between 2 Houston area gangs. DeLindsay, a promising athlete, had recently transferred to Lamar High School from Yates High School to escape gang vice. In 2024, Kiona Samiriel, now 22, was sentenced to 23 years in prison for her part in DeLindsay's death. Despite her age at the time of the crime, she was charged as an adult, meaning that she must serve at least half of her sentence before becoming eligible for parole. As Kiona's sentencing hearing got underway, DeLindsay's mother had the chance to address Kiona directly. She unleashed her anger and resentments towards Kiona in a powerful emotional speech. Her voice filled with raw emotion, she expressed her deepest hatred towards the teen, stating, "I hate you. You disgust me." While Kiona attempted to fight back tears, DeLindsay's mother had no qualms about pouring salt on her wounds. She bluntly told Kiona, "Don't you dare cry." The sentiment was clear. This mother felt no sympathy or remorse for the perpetrator of the heinous crime. In the aftermath of the hearing, Assistant District Attorney Sarah Seeley held a press conference to address the sentencing. She emphasized the severity of the case, highlighting its devastating impact on DeLindsey's parents. Miss Seeley stated that DeLindsey's parents had placed their child in the one place they believed he would be safe, school. But Kiona had taken advantage of the situation and orchestrated the murder. Kiona Mouton's shocking crime left a community in disbelief, but the next case reveals an even more harrowing tragedy.
Teenager who was accused of shooting a classmate 3 times was in court this afternoon to face upgraded adult charges. Daravius Smith has been in a juvenile detention center.
In January 2022, a shocking incident occurred at Seminole High School in Florida, leaving the community in disbelief. Sanford police arrested a 16-year-old student named Daravius Smith for allegedly shooting an 18-year-old student inside the school around noon. The charges against Daravius include 1 count of open attempted homicide, 1 count of possession of a firearm on campus, and 1 count of firing a weapon and disturbing the peace while interfering with school functions.
McIntyre is a senior who played cornerback on the Seminole High School football team. His family says he has been planning on playing in college next year and has several offers.
The victim of the shooting, Javon McIntyre, was a cornerback for his high school football team who dreamed of playing the sport in college. However, after the shooting, Javon's hopes were put into question, as he worried his injuries might hinder his chances of pursuing his dreams. Javon underwent surgery on his wrist after being shot 3 times, but fortunately, he survived and was in stable condition.
Deputies say he shot 18-year-old Javon McIntyre 3 times on campus at Seminole High School last month. After Smith told investigators the two had words in the bathroom.
Initially, the detectives investigating the shooting believed the motive behind the incident was linked to a girl. However, as they looked deeper into the case, they discovered that it was actually over a deceased relative. This revelation shocked the community and left many questioning the motive behind the senseless act of violence. According to the chief of police, there was no indication the shooting was gang-related. However, this only adds more mystery to the case. Before the tragic incident, Daravius Smith and Javon McIntyre were friends. However, the 2 teens had a confrontation 1 week before the shooting, which left everyone scratching their heads. Daravius, while speaking with detectives, claimed that Javon was taunting him between classes. However, he denied any threats or attempts to initiate a fight with Javon. On the day of the shooting, Daravius claimed that he hid in a bathroom to avoid Javon. He alleged that Javon was waiting for him outside the bathroom, ready to engage in a fight. In his statement to the detectives, Daravius claimed he was not scared, but because he was inexperienced in fights, he decided to shoot Javon instead. Shockingly, Daravius admitted to firing multiple shots at Javon before the gun jammed. He claimed that he fled the scene afterward, disposed of the weapon, and hid until he was eventually caught. 1 month after Daravius Smith was charged with attempted murder, his case was transferred from the juvenile justice system to the adult circuit court. Daravius opted not to go to trial, instead entering a no-contest plea to the charges against him. In July 2024, Daravius faced the consequences of his actions as Judge John Galuzzo handed down a 2 15-year prison sentence to be served concurrently. Additionally, he was ordered to serve 5 years on probation.
Probable cause for attempted first-degree premeditated murder with a firearm reclassified as a light felony. Your client will be held at no bond as to that count.
While on probation, Daravius was ordered to wear a GPS and is prohibited from possessing firearms. The judge made another important decision, banning Daravius from having contact with his victims, their families, and even Seminole High School property. Recognizing the potential mental health issues at play, the judge ordered Daravius to undergo mental health evaluations. In addition to mental health evaluations, the judge also required Daravius to enroll in anger management courses and life skills programs. Javon McIntyre filed a lawsuit against the Seminole County school system in November 2022. In his lawsuit, he alleged that the school did not do enough to protect him. According to Javon's complaint, several school officials heard Daravius threaten him 1 week before he was shot. The complaint further alleges that as he was running and screaming for help after being shot, one school staff member ran past him in the opposite direction and didn't help. Javon, by 2022, was a student at Tusculum University in Tennessee. Due to the devastating consequences of the shooting, Javon sought justice and demanded compensation. He believed his injuries warranted a fair settlement and is seeking at least $100,000. Our next case takes a shocking turn with Curtis and Catherine Jones, siblings who became the youngest teens ever charged with first-degree murder in the U.S.
Jones was only 13 and her brother Curtis 12 when they shot and killed Nicole Spites in 1999.
Curtis and Catherine Jones were siblings who found themselves at the center of a shocking murder case. Living in Port St. John, Florida, with their father, Curtis Jones Sr., the siblings were part of a tight-knit family. However, things took a turn when Curtis Sr. began a relationship with Nicole Spites, a 29-year-old woman with 2 daughters.
The brother and sister, the youngest at the time to be charged as adults with murder in the country, pled out and were sentenced to 18 years in prison.
For a few months in late 1998 and early 1999, the Jones family, Nicole and her daughters, had lived together. However, on January 6, 1999, a horrific event unfolded that would change their lives forever. As Nicole sat working on a 500-piece puzzle at the dining room table, Catherine approached her, holding her father's 9mm handgun. Without hesitation, Catherine opened fire, shooting Nicole in the torso. In the chaos that followed, Catherine dropped the gun, leaving it within reach of her brother Curtis. Curtis seized the opportunity and opened fire, continuing to shoot Nicole until the gun was empty. This deadly assault left Nicole dead on the kitchen floor. The detectives alleged Curtis and Catherine, 13 and 12 years old, covered up their tracks after shooting Nicole, staged the scene as a robbery, and ran into the woods, where they spent one night before they were found and arrested. At just 12 and 13 years old, Curtis and Catherine became the youngest people charged with first-degree murder in the United States. However, it quickly became evident that these two couldn't fully grasp the gravity of their actions. During the court proceedings, Curtis made a shocking request. He asked his attorney if he could bring his Nintendo to prison.
I can't say how many more times he fired the gun, but I know after maybe the last 2 bullets.
According to the Brevard County Sheriff's agent Todd Goodyear, the motive behind Nicole's murder was that the siblings were jealous of their father's girlfriend. This jealousy turned into deadly consequences, with both Curtis and Catherine pleading guilty to second-degree murder charges. It was believed that justice had been served at the time, but a shocking revelation would soon come to light.
I actually took the fingerprints off the gun and wiped it down, and I told my brother that he got hysterical. He had an emotional breakdown because, once again, this is reality now. This isn't some idea that's in our head anymore. This is reality.
In 2009, Catherine spoke to Florida Today and admitted that there was more to Nicole's shooting than meets the eye. According to Catherine, a family member who had been staying in their home sexually abused her and her brother Curtis. However, Catherine said their claims were not taken seriously when meeting with her father, Curtis Sr., and Nicole. Jessica and Inez, Nicole's daughters, were left to pick up the pieces after. Curtis and Catherine killed their mother. For years after the murder, Jessica and Inez perpetuated the lie that their mother was alive and well in Florida. The girls desperately clung to this fantasy. They continued to deceive their friends, pretending that Nicole was on an extended vacation. Finally, after years of suppressing the truth, Jessica mustered the courage to share it with her closest friends. The weight of that lie had become too heavy to bear, and she knew she had to seek help. In a moment of bravery, she revealed that her mother, Nicole, had been brutally murdered by a 12 and 13-year-old. As time went on, Jessica and Inez couldn't help but miss their mother at some of the most pivotal moments of their lives. Curtis Jones, now a youth minister, was released in July 2015, while his sister, Catherine Jones, followed in November of the same year. While adjusting to life outside of prison, Catherine worked at Sonic and supported herself independently. Driven by her desire to make a difference in the lives of others, Catherine made a bold and ambitious move to Washington, D.C., where she met with a Democratic senator to discuss changing how juvenile offenders are sentenced. Having spent half of her life incarcerated, Catherine's everyday experiences were like embarking on a new adventure. With a release date that coincided with Thanksgiving, Catherine's spirit soared as she envisioned spending the holiday with her brother Curtis. In an interview while in prison, Catherine expressed her remorse for the taking of Nicole's life and her deep regret for her actions. However, she confessed that she found solace in the solitude and introspection of prison life. When Nicole's daughters, Jessica and Inez, learned of Curtis and Catherine's impending release from prison in 2015, they expressed their pain to Florida Today. However, they also revealed their capacity for forgiveness. According to that article, Curtis and Catherine had never apologized to Jessica or Inez and appeared to have no remorse for their actions. After witnessing the tragic story of Curtis and Catherine Jones, two siblings who made a haunting pact at such a young age, we moved to the case of Jordan Roach.
Stand trial as an adult. On Thursday, Roche pleaded guilty to killing Cargill and was sentenced to 10 years in prison.
In 2017, Caitlin Cargill, a 14-year-old from Arlington, Texas, decided to walk with her dog. Caitlin left the apartment complex where she resided. Her family expected her to return home soon. However, their hopes began to fade as the hours turned into days.
14-year-old Caitlin Cargill, who disappeared in June only to be discovered dead in a landfill, may have had a deal to manufacture and sell a drug. An arrest warrant affidavit for Jordan Roach.
On the second day after Caitlin's disappearance, her body was found in an Arlington landfill. The discovery sent shockwaves through the community, and the search for justice began. It wasn't until August 2017 that the police finally revealed Caitlin's cause of death. Tragically, it was determined that she had been the victim of homicidal violence. This news only intensified the search for answers. In September 2017, police made a shocking announcement. They had arrested 16-year-old Jordan Roach, an acquaintance of Caitlin's. Jordan was charged with murder and transported to the Tarrant County Juvenile Detention Facility in Fort Worth. According to Jordan's arrest records, the police believed Caitlin was killed because of a drug deal gone bad. They also alleged that the murder weapon used was a hammer.
Police say they found a claw hammer along with Cargill's blood inside of an apartment.
Caitlin's murder sparked outrage among the residents of Bedford, where the young girl once lived. They are not only angered by the brutality of the crime, but also by the way the police and the media treated Caitlin. One of the most concerning aspects of this case is that the Bedford police never issued an Amber Alert when Caitlin disappeared in June 2017. This failure to act concerned many community members, as they believed that the situation warranted an immediate response. However, the Bedford police stated that Caitlin's information was entered into a local and national database, but they had no information to indicate she had been abducted, and therefore could not issue an Amber Alert. Fast forward to April 2022, and there is finally some closure in the case.
Is committed to remembering her daughter with a memorial garden in Hearst and a motorcycle ride each June in Caitlin's honor.
I live because she can't, so we do.
Jordan Roach, the 17-year-old perpetrator, was sentenced to 10 years in prison after he pleaded guilty. Since Jordan had been behind bars since his arrest, it meant that he would receive credit for time served. Trisha West, Caitlin's mother, expressed her outrage and disbelief at her daughter's murder during Jordan's sentencing hearing. She firmly believed her daughter would have become a valuable member of society, but Jordan's actions robbed Caitlin of that opportunity.
The only thing I can say is that you somehow have to find peace.
Trisha addressed Jordan directly, telling him that he had stolen Caitlin's life and her dreams. She expressed her deep regret at not being able to witness her daughter's bright future unfold. Through tears, she made it clear that Jordan had not only taken Caitlin's life, but also robbed her of the chance to make a positive impact on the lives of others. Continuing the theme of parental anguish, Bo Cargill, Caitlin's father, wrote a powerful statement that was read aloud during the sentencing hearing. In his letter, Bo expressed the daily torment he endured, haunted by what his daughter had to go through in her final moments. He expressed hope that Jordan would be haunted by his actions every day of his prison sentence. These stories uncover the chilling realities of youth entangled with violence and tragedy, but the journey is far from over. We'll keep uncovering the unsettling forces behind these shocking acts. Don't miss the next video. It will leave you questioning everything.